And we have about 1.2 million people around the world in Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Caribbean on the world's least expensive life-saving AIDS medicine. So I get around the world and I see what's going on. And what I want to say is that I would be here for Hillary if we had never been married. If I had known her as I have all these years and understood what we're up against as a country and what we need in a president, I'd be here because I think she's the best candidate I've had a chance to support in decades for president. And I want to tell you why. I think she's got the best plans to rebuild the middle class, reclaim the future for our young people, reform the government so it works for you again instead of just the special interest. I think she's got the best plans to end the war in Iraq, take care of our veterans, fight as we should against terror, and restore our standing as the world's leader for diplomacy and cooperation in the world. I think she's the best change maker I've ever known. And the truth is, the reason the Constitution refers to the president as the chief executive, that's an 18th century term. In modern language, it means the president is personally responsible for taking the good intentions that everybody expresses in the campaign and turning them into positive changes in other people's lives. And she's the best at that I have ever known. And finally, and I'll say more about this at the end, I think she's the least likely one to forget what you look like now.
Hang on, we're gonna wait.
And I mean that in all seriousness. You know, it's easy, if you noticed in these presidential debates, you see how all the candidates got better as they went through the debates? Did you notice that? You know why? Because of you, people like you. Every 4 years, the American people write a new symphony that has all their hopes and fears, all their dreams and nightmares, all the pain and promise of this country is written in the words the American people say back to the candidates. If you've got any ears, you hear the music. So the candidates get more out of the election than the people do, if they're listening. But once you get to Washington, it's so easy to be isolated and forget. And if you do, the consequences can be devastating. Look at the terrible damage done to President Bush's second term by how we all felt about the way Katrina was handled. And I don't say that, it's not a partisan deal. There are lots of Republicans who loved him who could have done a great job at FEMA. But they obviously weren't part of the in crowd that was making those decisions that led to a guy that ran a horse show association in Florida getting that job. So you need to know.
Okay, here we go.
When I say the fun to the end, I'll tell you. You want to know how this happens? First of all, it is easy to think you are somebody when you're president. Really, now think about it. I mean, they play a song every time you walk in the room. They play Hail to the Chief. For 8 years, every time I walked in a room, Hail to the Chief. I was lost for 3 weeks after I left the White House. No one played a song anymore. I didn't know where I was. Then you know, Washington is a traffic nightmare. You all know that if you've been there. But not for the president. You zip along in a bulletproof limo. You don't even stop for red lights. You have no commute to the most famous office in the world. Every night you go to bed at America's finest public housing. And your airplane is so cool, they make movies about it. Now, we're laughing, but you get it, don't you? If you ever forget, when you're president, that the president is nothing more than the most fortunate public servant on the face of the earth, that's all you are. And that's important to know. And she will never forget that. That's why she's a world-class change maker. 2 days ago, I'll just tell you a few stories here. 2 days ago, I was in North Carolina. I did 7 stops for Hillary. And I ended in one of the dream palaces of my childhood, Asheville, birthplace of the great American writer Thomas Wolfe. Right before I went there, I was in a little town called Hickory. We had, I don't know, over 1,000 people showed up. And I did my deal, and I was on my way to the last event. And on the way out, this woman grabbed me. I mean, literally grabbed me. She said, "Stop, look at my daughter, look at my daughter." So I looked at her teenage daughter there. And she said, this is why I'm for Hillary, because when you were president, she spearheaded your effort to double the number of adoptions of kids out of foster homes. This girl was trapped in the foster care system, and because of what Hillary did, I got to adopt her. It made my life complete and her life better. That's what I want in a president. I'm going to work for. And she has always been like this. When we were in law school 100 years ago, none of us we couldn't wait to get out. I mean, we'd been going to school a long time. Everybody was up to their ears in debt. Just wanted to get out and go to work. Not her. She spent another year in law school because she was working at the university hospital. And she would come to dinner with me at night with tears in her eyes because she had children with cigarette burns in their arms, kids that hadn't been fed in a week. And at that time, there were no protections in American law in almost every state against severe child abuse and neglect. So she took that year of her life and worked with other people to come up with guidelines about how to preserve the family unit but protect the children. Now every state in America has protections against that kind of child abuse and neglect. She was changing people's lives as a young woman. And then when we got out of law school, back then it's not like now, about half the graduates of law school today are women. Back then, it was a relatively rare thing for a woman to have a degree from law school. She could have had all these big clerkships or big paying jobs. She took a very low paying job, even though we were both up to our ears in debt, working for Marion Wright Edelman at the Children's Defense Fund in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And here was her first big time job as a lawyer. She was knocking on the doors of poor people's houses to find out how come their kids were